The black polo neck shirt, the jeans were as much the image of the brand as the iconic Apple logo, but behind the persona of a charismatic geek lay a ruthless business mind. So how will Apple survive without him? Our technology correspondent Benjamin Cohen is at the Apple store in London's West End. Ben.
Well, here there are scores of the Apple faithful who've left tributes of flowers, half-eaten apple cores and photos of Steve Jobs. It's really hard to imagine this sort of scene for the death of the chief executive of just about any other company. So what was it about Steve Jobs that inspired such devotion, and where does his death leave Apple now?
Good morning.
Steve Jobs was Apple, and Apple was Steve Jobs. His fingerprints were over everything the company did, and via huge set-piece launches like this for the iPad 2, he became an almost messianic figure, turning what is, after all, just a technology company into something more like a global cult of personality. His fans, and there were millions of them, adored him, but really only got to know him through carefully scripted and choreographed launch events.
What this device does is extraordinary.
He rarely gave interviews, thus avoiding awkward questions. And the company he saved from the brink of bankruptcy in 1997 takes an uncompromising approach to public relations and advertising. When launching a product, they don't take kindly to difficult questions, as Channel 4 News found out at the unveiling of the first iPhone.
If you want to talk about iTunes, that's a different...
iTunes I'm happy to do with you another day. We've just got so much going on today, and we're really excited about it, and we want to stay focused.
Jobs was more a refiner than an inventor. There were computers before the Mac, music players before the iPod, and tablet computers before the iPad. What he did was to perfect the design and then pick the optimal moment to market the hell out of it, blitzing and inspiring consumers in equal measure to go out and pay a little bit more for something they didn't know they needed.
Steve was a stunning visionary. He thought of ideas that he could interest the public in. He knew either what they wanted or what he could make them want. He hit many, many home runs out of the ballpark.
For some, owning an Apple product has an almost drug-like addictiveness.
This machine I bought in 1998. I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do with it. I knew very, very few other people with Apple Macs. 2 weeks later, I just couldn't imagine life without it.
So much so that his house has become a shrine to everything Apple. While it might be the design of the hardware that excites many users, it's the content that Apple sells us to put on them that's excited investors and allowed Steve Jobs to turn Apple into one of the most successful companies in the world. Apple takes 30% of every game, film, music and application that we download, but we can only use them on their products, tying us in to constantly be paying them money even if we never upgrade our device.
I'm really glad you liked everything. But there is one more thing that I want to talk about.
Jobs was famous for springing surprises at launches, but it wasn't just to the press. It was also to his own employees. Jobs' focus on secrecy was such that teams designing different aspects of one product were prevented from communicating with each other. Just he and a handful of key lieutenants had any idea what's coming next. That's why his loss is such a blow. He really did steer the ship. Just 2 days ago, the men now at the helm received a lukewarm response at the launch of their new device.
iPhone 4S.
Which disappointed analysts and even some of the company's biggest fans. Many see today as a turning point in what Jobs turned into the world's second most valuable company.
So, Benjamin, what next for Apple?
Well, the iPhone 4S comes out shortly and we'll actually expect to sell even better because really is the last device with Steve Jobs' fingerprints all over the screen. After that, who knows really, because no one's really sure where the company goes without that man and that vision right at the top.
Benjamin Cohen live outside the Apple Core store in Regent Street.